Hey everybody, Tony D with the final video of the evening. Screenwriter's rant on the new Ghostbusters trailer. I think I talked about the trailer before, the earlier version of it. Now the movie's coming out. Everybody's talking about it, so I thought I'd talk about it again. I don't quite understand why people are upset by this trailer. Doesn't appear to be anything new. Paul Rudd goes into a supermarket. It's actually kind of a creepy moment to a certain extent until there's a woman who screams in the supermarket. And he kind of looks, but then he kind of goes back to it, because you hear people screaming sometimes. I guess if you live in the middle of nowhere and you heard that, you'd be like, whoa. But I live in New Jersey and I hear people scream all the time, and I just go, well, somebody's screaming, and I go back to what I'm doing. So it doesn't surprise me. So in this scene, he sees little miniature Stay Puffs, and one of them bites him, and then he sees these guys sort of roasting each other, and that's I don't see why this would even happen. Of course, most people don't remember probably the original Ghostbusters what Stay Puffed was. The Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man was Dan Aykroyd in a moment in the movie. At the climax of the movie is the god Gozer says, choose your destructor. And then Bill Murray's like, oh, wait a minute, clear your mind, because no matter what you think, that's what's going to destroy us. If we think of X, then X will come and destroy us. And so they all try to clear their minds, but like Ray, Dan Aykroyd, just let Stay Puft Marshmallow Man pop into his head. And so that's just like a bit in the movie. But now they're turning the bit into a thing, which is a bad sign in my view, because this is like repeating the same damn thing. Okay? Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was not important. There's no real reason to have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in the movie at all. It was just Gozer's deal. Gozer didn't know what Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was. Gozer was trying to destroy New York City. So it feels lazy to me. But anyhow, it's Ghostbusters Afterlife. The rest of it is the trailer, more of the trailer we saw before, where the characters move to Egon's. Egon is their grandfather who left them this strange house after he died, and the town out in the middle of nowhere is experiencing earthquakes. Nobody knows why. Well, she finds, the granddaughter finds a bunch of old Ghostbusters stuff. Paul Rudd is their teacher. He remembers the Ghostbusters, a big fan. Jason Reitman, the son of the Reitman that directed the first movie, is the director. Is he the director or the writer? I think he's both. I think the problem with this movie already is that it's a little too self-important, and it should be fun. It's not that self-important, though, so it does look okay. It looks okay. So, they find all the Ghostbusters old stuff, these kids, and they run around town and they use it. I'm not sure why. It's called Ghostbusters Afterlife. Written and directed by Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan, also a writer. I don't think it'll be an awful movie, but is it going to be the classic? No. It'll probably be better than, that horrible remake they did a few years ago with all the women. Probably even going to be better than the second one, quite frankly. The second one was not great. But, this kind of movie, in my view, and Jeremy from The Quartering did a piece on this, and I kind of agree with his assessment. It was more, he said it was more of a horror movie with comedy in it, or with the comedic actors reacting, which is partially true, I think. What you want to do in comedy is if you're doing a comedy horror, then all the monsters have to play it straight. Like, they have to be real monsters for the comedy to be funny. And that's what they were in Ghostbusters. And this is what Jeremy points out. The ghosts were actually scary in Ghostbusters. They were really scary. Like, they go into the library, and the librarian doesn't just... She's just not a ghost. She turns into a monster ghost when they, like, confront her. They're like, ah! She gets all creepy and stuff, and it scares you a little bit. It's shot like a scary movie. Little tiny Stay Puft marshmallows they're cute and amusing, and I'm sure they'll be marketed ad nauseum, as Jeremy points out. But they're not appropriate for what you're going for. Not if you're going for comedy, because what you'd want is a situation in which people are living lives that we can relate to, and then the ghosts show up and ruin everything, but these knuckleheads somehow pull it together to defeat the ghost or whatever supernatural entity is driving them. They're trying to make the ghost the fun part, and Slimer's in it too. Look, Slimer was in the first Ghostbusters, and he was just one of the ghosts. Yes, they turned him into a thing for the cartoon, but that was like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing. It wasn't. It's not what really works in the movie. I don't know if they're counting that as a continuity for the purposes of this movie. It's unnecessary to even have Slimer in the movie. He didn't have a name. And Venkman hated him. It's all too self-important. Okay? You want to make a Ghostbusters movie? Great. Bring back this stuff. And what did the first movie do? Well, they turned ghost busting into an exterminating service. So what you want is ghosts bothering a group of people that the Ghostbusters can then bother. And they have to be called in order to save the day, and everybody kind of like doesn't like them, but then they tolerate them because they're the Ghostbusters and the only ones that can save the day. And then they do, and then, something changes, and they're like, well, I guess you guys are okay. This looks like part 1 of, 7. Oh, okay, kids, Ghostbusters. Okay. We get it. We already know what the Ghostbusters are. Now, you could argue, like, well, new audience, we got to reintroduce it. I guess. I mean, it was only one of the most popular movies made. It's been around since 1984. It's not like people don't rent Ghostbusters. It's not like Ghostbusters isn't one of the most watched comedies in movie history. You don't have to have been born in the 80s to have seen it. Yeah, I saw it in high school. I love it. But if I hadn't been in high school then, I'm sure I would have seen it, because it's a comedy, and it's a really good one. And people go, hey, have you ever seen Ghostbusters? No, what's Ghostbusters? Oh, you should watch it. Let's watch it. It's the kind of movie you could watch like 1,000,000 times. It's always funny. It's that good. This doesn't even approach that. That's part of the problem. And I'm not knocking Paul Rudd and the people in it. I'm sure that, they're talented, but you needed a new Ghostbusters, like a new comedy. And who did they get for the first one? Well, they got Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd from Saturday Night Live, like pretty fresh off of Saturday Night Live, I'll add. Winston was played by Ernie Hudson. That was supposed to be Eddie Murphy, right? So Eddie Murphy didn't want to do it for whatever reason. Would have been a completely different movie, I think. But, so there's that. And finally you've got Harold Ramis. I couldn't remember his name for a second. Who, was in Stripes with Bill Murray, and he was one of the funniest comedy writers ever. So you got all this really funny talent. The kid from Stranger Things? Well, he's a good actor. I wouldn't call him like a great comedic talent. I mean, Paul Rudd, he could be in it. I could see him being in it. I don't think he approaches the level of Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd, but I could see him as a Venkman type character, or one of the characters. But you need more than Paul Rudd. Like, to me, Ghostbusters, if you were going to make a Ghostbusters Afterlife, you would essentially make a sequel with, I would say, like Paul Rudd, Danny McBride, Seth Rogen, because before he became woke, and I don't know, Ansari. Like those four guys. Some of the guys from This Is the End. James Franco, maybe. Danny McBride, definitely. Will Ferrell. I mean, how hard is this? You get four of the funniest guys in Hollywood to make the movie. And you redo the Ghostbusters. And they're all the sons of Ghostbusters. And look, if you hadn't used Melissa McCarthy and wasted her in the female remake, she could have been one of the Ghostbusters too. But you wasted her. Okay? You wasted her in a remake that just should have never happened. Same thing with Kristen Wiig. Although I don't think Kristen Wiig really would have been right for it. I think Melissa McCarthy could have pulled it off. Under the right screenplay and director. Does Jason Reitman have his dad's chops? I mean, he's a decent director. I don't know if he's right for comedy. Comedy's a high wire act, man. It's hard to do a comedy. Comedy is hard. You got to connect. Okay? It's about connecting with people. It's about being relatable. And this is okay. It doesn't look like I'm going to be laughing my A off. It looks like it'll be okay. Like, part of the Ghostbusters thing was they were in New York. And there's tons of targets in New York that, you had the stuffy bureaucrat. You had the stuffy hotel guy. I mean, you have all these awesome buildings. Like, Ghostbusters were running around like maniacs. That's something for them to play against. Out in the middle of nowhere? Okay. Not exactly sure where that gives you to go. What's exactly in danger out in the middle of nowhere? In the Ghostbusters movie, all of New York was in danger. Even at the end of the second movie, they used the Statue of Liberty to walk around, and which to me wasn't very good, but it was something. It was big. This looks small. Okay, you're going small with it. Not sure where that leads in terms of comedy. It looks like a coming of age movie, Ghostbusters or Stranger Things. That just seems like you're smashing some elements together that are popular in this sort of subgenre and hoping it'll work. And then you're counting on the people who love the earlier Ghostbusters to come out and bring their kids. Like, it's not what the movie is. Okay? Venkman was kind of a sleazebag. He was trying to get in Sigourney Weaver's pants the entire movie. He was scamming some girl in the opening scene. He's not really a good doctor. Ray and Egon are a couple of nerds who they're so caught up in their nerd stuff they don't even know how to really function in society. Dan Aykroyd's character picks the firehouse because he likes the pole. I mean, these are fun elements that make the movie. What does this have? Okay, Paul Rudd's getting ice cream. Yeah, that's fun. But give us something. Give us a danger. I mean, there was danger in Ghostbusters. It wasn't just the ghost. It was Gozer. It was a Keymaster. I mean, the big giant wolf monsters, they were scary looking. They were mean. You could see that they would eat people if given the chance. It just so happens no one gets eaten. Although they do get possessed. So, Dana and Rick Moranis' character. So, yeah, I think fans of the Ghostbusters franchise are going to be disappointed. They're going to be like, well, it was okay. They'll see it. They'll be okay with a couple of bits. Like, oh, there's Egon. Oh, that's what happened to Egon. He died, and he left his grandkids this great house and all this stuff. Oh, that's what happened to the Ecto-1. Okay. I mean, that's kind of the reason I would see it. I'll probably see it when it's like on some rental thing and I can see it for next to nothing. I'm not going to go to the theaters to see this. There's no reason to. It's not going to be an epic event. Who am I missing? Am I going to miss some big giant revelation here? Am I going to miss some comedy thing? No. And in this world of wokeness, can we even do comedy anymore? Could we even do a Ghostbusters movie? Oh my God, Venkman's so sexist. So, part of it's not on Jason. I mean, there are lots of things going on. The studio is not going to let an important franchise like this just be made. They just can't. They won't keep their hands off of this. So I'm sure he's under tremendous pressure. Tremendous amounts of pressure. Not just because he's the son of the guy who directed the original movie, but because the studio sees money and they're not just going to let him make the movie. He's not the guy on Ghostbusters, unfortunately. And even his dad, they probably wouldn't. They would have their hands in this movie. And when the studio has their hands in a movie, they usually ruin it. When the movie's good, they ruin it. When a movie's terrible, they sometimes save it. That's my rule. Studios can keep a movie from being a total effing disaster sometimes, but they often take great ideas and F them because they're so paranoid. And this predates the whole wokeness thing. I mean, you look at Blazing Saddles, right? They tested Blazing Saddles. The studio said, "Oh, here you can't do all this stuff. It's hilarious, but we're going to make all these changes." And Mel Brooks just ignored them. Thank God. But a lot of people didn't ignore the studio. Now it's like impossible to ignore the studio. Instead, we get these constant. I mean, look at Justice League. We just had the Zack Snyder Justice League come out. That was the original vision. The studio had to F with it. And maybe you can argue they had to do that because of the runtime and other elements, but at the end of the day, there's too many cooks spoil the stew. And it's a true saying. I'm Tony D, and I am out for the evening. We'll see you tomorrow.